You flip a switch. Light swallows the room. You don't even register the act. For 99.9% of human time, no hand ever made that motion. Sunset meant blindness. You could not pick out your own fingers hovering an inch from your face. Modern people almost never taste this depth of dark. For 300,000 years, every ancestor of yours lived half their existence wrapped in near total black. No candles for most of that span. Just the frozen sky, the spilled stars, and whatever embers they refused to let die. So what filled those silent hours? The answer tears up everything we assume about rest, narrative, and the boundary of being human. Fire is the hinge. The earliest solid proof of human fire control sits in Wonderwerk Cave, South Africa, about 1 million years deep. Fire did not merely warm flesh, it split the human day down the middle and bolted on a new half. Before flame, we acted like any primate. Sunset meant stop, climb, vanish. Walking after dark was an invitation to become prey. Our night sight was pathetic beside the leopards, hyenas, wolves that stalked us. They owned the black. One campfire redrew the map, a safety ring roughly 9 meters wide, inside which predators refused to step, outside which death circled. Anthropologists tracking living hunter-gatherers today still log the same cold equation. Drift beyond the glow, and the odds of being dragged away jump sharply. Yet fire handed us something deeper than protection. It gave humans an invention no other creature had ever held: spare hours. Before flame, the working day collapsed at dusk. 12 hours in summer, maybe 8 in winter. Fire stretched that window by 2 to 4 hours, every single night. Multiply that across thousands of generations, and those bonus hours rewired the species. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiessner dropped a landmark paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. She had spent years transcribing daily talk among the Jew/Hwansi Bushmen of the Kalahari, among the last people on Earth still tethered to something close to the ancestral human beat. Her numbers landed like a verdict. By daylight, roughly 80% of words exchanged were transactional: hunting coordinates, plant readiness, gripes, deals, logistics, the language of chores. But once the flames caught and the sun drained away, conversation inverted. 81% became narrative: origin myths, far-flung adventures, jokes that rattled the entire circle. Wiessner argued that firelight talk is where human culture was forged. The campfire was the first theater, the first classroom, the first sanctuary. It was the kiln where we learned to reach past the present and picture what had not yet arrived. The place we grew recognizable to ourselves. But night concealed a second secret, one that science only dredged up in the last 30 years. You were not engineered to sleep the way you sleep. In 2001, historian Roger Ekirch unleashed a paper that cracked sleep science open. He had combed archives for 16 years. 15th century prayer manuals, court transcripts, diaries, doctor's notes, private letters, even lines buried in Homer. Over 500 texts, all pointed to a single buried truth. Before clocks and factories, humans never slept in one unbroken march. They lay down shortly after sunset, woke 4 hours later, stayed alert for a full hour or two, then slid into a second sleep lasting until dawn. This was not illness. This was the ordinary architecture of every night for millennia. The midnight gap had its own name, the watch, and people used it. A French doctor of the 1500s urged couples to conceive in that window, claiming they would perform better. Neighbors rose and visited. Dreamers untangled their visions while the images still clung to memory. Some wrote. Most simply floated in the pitch, letting their minds wander. One medical guide from the era advised that the finest hour for study and meditation was precisely this fissure: the head quiet, the earth mute. Here is the almost unbelievable layer. Scholars had been staring at those texts for centuries and kept mistranslating first sleep into weaker phrases, because they could not conceive that the human body had ever run on a different schedule. The assumption cut so deep that translators deliberately bent Greek and Latin passages to fit modern habit. Then the laboratory stepped forward and proved the archive correct. In 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Wehr stripped 8 volunteers of all manufactured light. 14 hours of darkness per night. 1 month. Without a single instruction, everybody slumped into the same groove. 4 hours down, a serene wakeful bridge of 1 to 3 hours, then 4 more hours under. Wehr drew their blood during that middle stretch. Prolactin was surging, the identical hormone that rushes through you after climax and during deep meditation. They described the state as still, reflective, a mode of consciousness with its own grain, one we have since erased. What killed it? Light. Street lamps landed in the 1600s. Paris blazed first. Gas lines chased them, then Edison. Within a single generation, the ancient night, 300,000 years of it, dissolved. Consider the word curfew. It comes from the French couvre-feu, cover your fire. In medieval towns, a bell rang each evening commanding every household to smother its flames. Not fire safety. Theology. Night was the property of things you did not name. Walking unlit after dark was a crime. People dreaded the dark with an intensity almost unreachable to us now. Then we beat it. Drowned it in photons, branded it progress, and forfeited an entire chamber of the human mind. Today your retinas soak in manufactured light for 7 to 8 hours past sunset. The blue slice of the spectrum, your screen's mother tongue, chokes melatonin at the source. Your body cannot distinguish a bulb from the sun. It treats 11 p.m. as noon. It splinters your rest. It smashes a circadian scaffold that evolution spent ages assembling. Researchers have shown that a single week of camping with zero electric light yanks the melatonin clock backward by 2 hours. 7 days. That is all it takes to rouse a 300,000-year-old program. We did not merely reschedule sleep. We deleted an entire phase of awareness. That still cleft between the two tides of rest, the pocket Wehr's volunteers called tranquil, no longer exists for most of us. Instead, we got insomnia. We medicate it. We file it under disorder. But what if snapping alert at 2 in the morning is not a malfunction? What if it is your body reaching backward across deep time, towards something it once knew how to do? For 300,000 years, your ancestors gathered around flame and wove the tales that scaffolded civilization. They slept in 2 tides with a silent lagoon suspended between. They lived under a dark so total that the Milky Way required no reservation, no park pass. It was simply the roof. Every night, inside that lagoon between the 2 rests, they lay motionless and sifted through their lives, their visions, and the world waiting at sunrise. All of it. Swapped. For a light switch. And almost nobody noticed.